This is Mr. Pymerica's 20th Century Game Controller Collection. This is as many as I could actually fit into a photograph, so I just decided to stop it in the 20th century. Hopefully someday I'll be able to make a photo video of 21st century controllers that I'm on, which is about a whole lot more than that. Not exactly sure how many. About 50 more from the 21st century I have. Alright, starting with the Zircon Video Command Joystick. This is released in 1982 by a company that bought out the rights to produce the Fairchild Channel F, the first cartridge-based system. Came out a year before 2600 in 1976. That's why this is at the beginning. So it's essentially the same controller, just with removed functionality. On this actual controller, you push down for your fire button, and you move the joystick around. Typically you use two hands. You can use just your thumb, but I have to hold the camera. You move it around. There's a spring inside that lets you push down. Very smooth, moves real easy. Functionality removed that was actually in the Fairchild was a pull up, which it still physically does, and a twist left, twist right. So you would use in the Fairchild system in the channel F to rotate paddles. So you could do like a Pong type game with angles, and angle the paddles. But only the plunger down fire button works. Since it's essentially the same controller with less functionality, exactly the same, just got a sticker on the front. That's at the beginning of my list. We have 1977's Atari launch controllers. The driving controller, which has an endless spinner. You just spin it as long as you want. Only one game was programmed for it. I have the 1978 version, which has the word driving instead of the Atari logo. We have the paddle controllers, also 1978 versions. 77 versions have the Atari logo instead of the word paddle, and the paddles, they stop at some point. Tried to clean this one out with nail polish because it didn't have rubbing alcohol, because it was jittering and it discolored it. Still didn't work too well. Still pretty jittery. Then we have the Atari video touchpad. Same functionality as the kids controller and the keyboard controller. Has rubber buttons, 12 of them. Came with the game Star Raiders. Had an overlay. I bought mine for maybe $1 or so. It's the cheapest controller available on Amazon. It did not come with the overlay. We have the Gemstik by Gemini. Very good feeling controller. I think it's better than the original 2600 controller, which I did have years ago, and that felt very sort of rubbery stiff to me. And this is a Gemini controller box. I have two of them. I had ordered some controllers from Atari2600.com, and they accidentally also sent me someone else's order, which was of two Gemini sticks. So I got those for free, essentially. This is a Roklan unroller controller. It's not a trackball. It's a dome that clicks in the various directions. Left, right, up, down. Works pretty good. You can use your palm. You can do it one-handed if you want to. You can go one-handed with it. Just depending on how intense the game you're playing is. This is the RGA video joystick. Uniquely has a sheath that you rock around into. You rock the controller. It's got a flat button on top. The grip is the same grip as the original QuickShot controller. We have the Atari 7800 controllers, also known as the Roklan joysticks. Personally, I think they're the least comfortable controllers as far as using the buttons. In emulation, you can, hooking them up to the PC, you can remap everything and basically hold them in any direction you want, which is cool. The joysticks are very good, very smooth, they notch in, and obviously the metal paneling is really cool. Got the NES controller from '85, it's a QuickShot joystick from 1987, clicks really well. It's based off of the QuickShot II, which was released for the basically DB9 systems, is the Atari-like and home computer systems. It was originally designed in '84. A lot of people ripped off this joystick top for their Atari controllers. Same thing with the other QuickShot grip, which they obviously ripped them off. That's another QuickShot. This NES Max. It's actually originally designed by Bulletproof Software. In Japan it was released as the BPS Max. This is called the Cycloid. When you slide around like this, nothing happens. You have to push down while you're sliding it, and that'll get your directions going. Or you could even just independently press this black wheel, well, not wheel, but this black circle, and go whatever direction. SNES controller sort of took some cues from this with its 4 buttons and the slanted start and select. It's a QuickShot 126 joypad. The box was labeled as a Deluxe Joy Card controller. I've never played a television controller before, but it has a similar, I imagine it's something like this. It's basically just a D-pad in a sense that is a circle. It's real smooth. If you have a smaller thumb, wouldn't wear out your fingers, it's fine. You remap it on a PC for emulation. You can use this as like a pawn controller up and down, just, you know, for simple ones. Space shooters, Galaxian, go back and forth. It's actually starting to select on this, but it's just smooth back and forth thing that you can do. And it's sort of got buttons that are like a stopwatch. Lots of cats walking through. Stopwatch-like buttons. And you can put it in any orientation you want if you remap it for a PC. Sort of strange in its original orientation. Cord comes out of the bottom, which is peculiar as well. Sort of draining the casting in that way. We move on to 1991's QuickShot Flight Grip. This is really, I have the NES version. Very sharp D-pad, but sharp. It's actually concave somewhat. So if you get it in the right spot, it's not too bad. It does feel cool, even though it offers nothing new. It's got the trigger in the back. If you turn it like this, bam, you got yourself a Wiimote, basically. You got your big button, your D-pad, right there, and you got a trigger button under here, like a trigger on the Wiimote. Again, with emulation, you can move it like that. You could map it that way. It's not. You see, it's sort of boomerangy. It also has the conjoin button, which the other QuickShot controllers do as well. That one's more rocky on the joystick. Joystick is called the QuickShot XII on the NES. It's SN Pro Pad. Very, very good. I prefer this D-pad to the Genesis pad. I used to own an SNES controller, but I do not anymore. The original, so I can't say how they compare. Has a slow motion button on the back. You can switch back and forth. It's cool. It's see-through. one of the early see-through controllers, because this came out in 1991, same year the SNES launched. Maybe the first see-through controller, the first one I can think of. Got some yellowing on the cord, tribute to its system, I guess. It's a TurboCharge 360, released in 1992. People complain about it online, but I think it's pretty good. The worst part about it is you can't rest your thumb on the actual item, so you have to sort of hover the whole time, which is annoying. I actually beat Cave Story on the Wii, obviously using an adapter, with this controller. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was great for Cave Story, aiming diagonally, great for diagonal aiming. It's got notches for little circles for diagonal and lines for up, down, left, right. Makes it so you can feel where you're at, which in that sense makes it better than like you'd find on a touchscreen phone today. You have a little bit of feel to it. You don't have to look at it. And it's essentially, as much as people criticize it, it's essentially the same thing as most people play games today on their Android or iOS phones. This is a game handler, ultra rare Genesis version. One-handed controller. It's a motion controller. I don't have the plug hooked into the bottom. It's got a slot for a plug. It was also released for the NES. It's got wonderfully designed one-hand controller. You've got your pinky right here. You got your trigger. This is the start button up here. Then you have another button here. I think that's the start button. I forget. I remap everything, you know. I'm pretty sure that is. And then you can change settings, turbo, switch which A and B, whether you want one to be A or the other to be B. It's good for the real system. These are Genesis controllers. They're here, appearing in 1992, because this is the 1992 versions. The 1989 versions have red lettering. They don't have ABC up here. The trigger is above. The trigger wording is above. There's no little plastic nub on the B button on the original versions. And the reason I have them in 82 is because the D-pad is actually made differently than the 89 version, so they are different controllers, even though they're mostly the same except for cosmetically. The D-pad does have a different feel. It's a QuickShot 3+3 for the Genesis. Very good clicky arcade style joystick. Buttons light up if it were plugged in. It's got a mode start. I cannot get this to work with any 6-button adapters, but it works 3-button fine. And you can turn the buttons. You can turn the button base, rotate the buttons however you like. It's also got programmable buttons, 2 programmable buttons, these blue ones. And it's got a reverse button. I forget exactly what that does, but I believe you can program a move and then it does it in reverse. Essentially, you do the Hadouken to the left, it'll do it to the right, which is pretty cool. It's Konami Justifier for Genesis. Fighter Stick SN for the SNES. Real non-clicky, smooth joystick. You can change your speed of your turbo here. Nice buttons. Moving to 1993, the Jaguar controller. I think it's a very comfortable controller. It's not confusing, nothing like that. The worst part about it is these buttons are the plastic just doesn't feel good. The grip is amazing. You can just put all your fingers down there. Put your index right there. D-pad is better than I remember when I picked it back up. Then you have overlays over the number button part, which is fantastic. Most games on the system don't use the numbers. Some of them do, but as you can see, you can select your weapons with one button push. You don't have to cycle through. You got a map. On the Jaguar, if you press pound and star, it does reset without having to get up and press reset. That's an awesome feature you don't hear much about. And you got the nice logo. The overlays were awesome, especially for first-person shooters, even though it's basically only two that I know of. But those are the best games for the system anyway. It's the Capcom Pad Soldier SNES version. Not even SNES, Super Famicom. Super cool because basically you got your D-pad here, and it's hard to disconnect between. And on the other side, like an arcade stick, you can use your fingers instead of having to use your thumb, so you can have all three fingers down for fighting games. Very cool. Nice grip. Nice grip. Released only in Japan. It's my only Japan exclusive controller. It's a Logitech TurboTouch 360 Plus. It actually has a plug that lets it play on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. It's actually just an adapter that goes from Genesis to Super Nintendo. Not made by the original TurboTouch company Triax. It's funny that these two ended up lining up. It's made by Logitech. There was a Logitech controller with a normal D-pad released before this, but Logitech got the TurboTouch, so they let them have this. They made that controller into a TurboTouch controller. It's got L and R on the side, both L and R over here, or X and or Y and Z. 3 programmable buttons, pre-programmed for Street Fighter moves. I believe one of them is a Hadouken. One's a shorter Yuken, I believe. It's getting hard to get in the middle here. The Saturn Virtual Stick. I basically got it because it's got essentially 5 buttons in a row, which is unique. This L being half a button wears on your thumb. That's, I'd say, the worst part about it. It's got variable turbo control. The stick feels really good. It's not a clicky stick, but it's nice and smooth. This Virtual Boy controller, I actually have an adapter called the Bliss Box that lets you play with that on the PC. It's got triggers on the back. Triggers that I wish we'd see more often on systems. Little button triggers. It's got the 2 D-pads. It's a rare but cheap on Amazon Doc's Memory Joypad. It's essentially the combat controller, which was a controller designed for Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, but with its own programmable RAM cart that sort of looks like a Game Gear cartridge. Bottom connector's obviously not the same. You can program and save your moves to that cartridge, and I forget how many characters. I think it's 8 to 16 characters you can program 4 functions for. The first time I programmed it worked fantastic. Second time it seemed like it had a timing problem, but this came out after the Combat 3 pad, which is very similar but doesn't have the programming portion. It's like a cross between the Combat 3 pad on the Genesis and the Combat pad on the PlayStation, which has this programmable area here. The PS1 controllers, this is the second version. Second version has this fertile bead on the wire, and I believe the cable's longer. These are the SCPH 1080. Nothing to do with HD. That's why they're a little bit past the line. I don't know. I guess they're in the right spot either way. This is a Namco Nikon. It's got one analog trigger. The other one is a button, not analog. These are analog buttons. A lot of PlayStation controllers map as if they were the Nikon. They're very smooth analog buttons. And you twist the controller to steer. Very smooth, feels good. It's a good feeling controller. I'll have other controllers that map to the Nikon style. It's the Sony analog joystick. I believe that's the name. Some may call it the flight stick. The official box name is the analog joystick. Came out before the DualShock. This came out in April of '96. very well designed. Very smart having the arcade style buttons here as duplicates to the buttons on the actual sticks. Got the buttons there. Got an armrest, handrest on the bottom, fantastic. It's got a trigger back here on this side and another button down there. So push button with your pinky, have two buttons to press with your thumb, one with your trigger finger. This is a hat switch D-pad, designed the same, mirrored for the other hand. Otherwise, very, very fun. Gives you a fun experience, immersive experience. Here we have the Saturn controller. It's a 1996 is when the US version of this was released. My brother had the original Saturn US controller. That's why this isn't before PlayStation controllers, because this, the Japanese version, which is this one, the original, it's not released until 1996 in the US, mid-96. Favorite trigger buttons of all time. Sort of just have this awesome arch to them that just fits right. Very, very easy to push. Very fast as well. So it has a mouse feel, but doesn't have that click back to where it hurts your finger. It's a Saturn 3D joypad. With the adapter I have from RAFnet, you can actually use the D-pad and the analog knob here at the same time. For separate functions, you couldn't do that on the original Saturn. You had to switch this button back and forth. All these buttons are the same size here. So on the regular Saturn, they're different size. It has analog triggers like the Dreamcast controller. This comes unplugged, which is possible they might eventually, if it was successful, they may have added a rumble feature to this where you could plug it in. This uses magnets on the inside, so it basically doesn't wear out like the N64 joystick. It's real smooth, fantastic to play with Knights. I bought Knights, and I did not have the 3D Saturn 3D controller. My sister had it. They didn't have Knights. It's officially called the Saturn 3D control pad. Sega controllers tend to be called control pads. This is the Roklan. Hard to do internet searches. They think you're looking for a raccoon. It's RC style. Could not get this to work with anything but my Bliss box. No other PS2 adapter would work with it. Got the buttons down there. Forward, backwards, brake, gas. Steering is very good. This wheel is worn out. Mine was fresh box, never used, but this thing just, I guess in storage or whatever, the rubber is going down really quick. I thought the steering was fantastically accurate on this. Much more so than a lot of other driving controllers. This is a black SNE N64 original controller. Box is in Nintendo 64 black controller, official box name. You have the PS Arcade. I had to solder this to fix it on the inside, but one of the buttons came loose. It's the most arcadey feel of them all, I think. Buttons are sort of smooth and clacky. These light up if you have turbo on. This is a, I forget the name at this time, but basically your arcade style joystick where it pushes against the things on the inside. I forget the terminology for it. Hat switch. No, can't remember right now. But I do know it, I just don't remember. Then we have the Joy-Con, released for Ridge Racer R4, I think. Has a wheel that you use to steer. Eventually it does have a hidden centering point, even though it twists forever. It has like a hidden centering point. Hidden just because you can't feel it. You just sort of have to go past it in the game, and it screws up the game. It's released in May 1999. But that's me accidentally skipping because of where it was at. Let's jump back to 96. The Arcade Shark. The only 9 face button, I think it's 9, yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Only 9 face button arcade stick I know of. Used this to play Knights on the Wii. Very good. This is an analog, actually the only analog arcade stick I know of. They only come with one of these. It screws off and can go on this one. This is the D-pad, digital. This is actually analog right here. Only analog and digital arcade stick I have ever heard of. Big giant start button. SuperPad 64 Plus. It's got a Z trigger on the bottom, right under there. Analog stick is not very good, but the design is pretty cool. It shows you what N64 probably could have been if they had decided to go with just a two-prong. Generic Barracuda. This was released before the DualShock, but after the original Sony non-DualShock analog. If you look that up, you'll find out that happened. It has various modes. One of them that makes it possible to use in flight stick mode. One's in the other analog mode. Joysticks are very N64 like how they're made. They feel smooth, but ultimately this controller is very uncomfortable. I wish there were more controllers with buttons like this on the back, except for the fact that this one's very sticky and uncomfortable. I opened this up and it actually, these buttons rock both directions, like it has 2 contacts to where you can do left or right, but even with cleaning and everything, it just does not feel right. It's very clacky. These move really smooth just from feeling it, but in game it doesn't go well. There's the actual DualShock. We know enough about that, I guess. This is the 200 toy double trimmer. I'd say this is worse. If you're going to actually use an analog balls, these do click as well. So they're textured sort of like the Roklan unroller. If you're going to use these, they still have the grips designed as if you were going to use the analog sticks. And just using these for just a couple of minutes, having it low down for whatever reason, just kills your thumb. I'd say it's the worst controller I own. It's got a cool plug though. Worse than the 7800. Brings pain faster than that. That's hard to do. This is the glove for the N64. You got your D-pad on top. You wear this. You can access 7 buttons. Well, even more than that actually. And on your hand, you can access all the buttons. Just your fingers. You can show that. It's got the triggers there. Triggers in Z on the side, which is really cool. If the D-pad were better, it sort of doesn't feel centered right to where your thumb's at. Should be a great emulation controller as far as single-handed. This joint here controls the analog stick. Wears your wrist out very fast. I've even heard that from people with good wrists. This is the Osciware Spear 360 for PlayStation. It's got several modes that you can get it to work. It's got just one side of shoulder buttons, the other 2 on the face. What's interesting about this, it's got an analog ball that you can twist left, twist right, twist up, pull up, pull down, push down, pull up, and I believe there may be a few other functions as well. It's meant to simulate a head, sort of like you're looking certain directions, inverted. You pull down, you twist down to look up, twist the other way. Well, you twist left and right as well. It's meant to sort of emulate a head and how you look with a camera. It's more than just, I think it's 6-axis. It's more than just a single. It doesn't just simulate a single joystick. It goes beyond that. Aside from also adding the buttons. But what's interesting to me is that it's essentially very much like this, the Fairchild Channel F controller. Got the twist left, twist right, plunge down, plunge up, move around. This is insanely superior. This is unbelievably sensitive. Pretty much impossible to play games with. just as little movement as there is in this. The idea that it's ultra sensitive is absurd. You shouldn't have something with tiny movement available and have so much sensitivity. Never tried emulating Mario 64 on it though. I might try that. See how Mario's were under crawl, how easy it is to do. That's just a good analog. Mario 64 is a good thing to just test analog controllers on for, you know, the walking real slow to running. I already accidentally talked about the Joy-Con. That's from 1999. We got the Ultra Racer. Very recentering. Pretty fun. See, we have the 1-2, which is reminiscent of the Neg-Con because it's based on that control scheme. These buttons actually say 1-2, the non-blue ones. So it's got analog buttons that you can use, which I don't believe the N64 version does. It's got more analog than the N64 version because of the dual. Then you have your gas brake. Pretty good. I think this is a Microsoft Freestyle Pro Sidewinder. Go check my list real quick. A Sidewinder Gamepad Pro. It's from 1999. USB controller. USB used to have this cool looking plug. It actually gave you a little nub on top to let you know, hey, this is the top. Plug it in this way. The USB is my least favorite plug pretty much ever. It's easy to plug in and out, but it's very hard to figure out up and down, you know, which parts are top, and you're constantly flipping it. But back in the old days, USB controllers had the little nub on them. You hear on another Sidewinder, same thing. I got a controller from 2000s like that, non-Microsoft one. See, here's a wheel that has it. Little thing on top lets you know. This is got triggers on the back. Nice feeling triggers. They're digital buttons, but this is a combination D-pad analog pad. Just strange. Registers is both. You can get it working in the modern day. Sort of like you push it a little bit and it's analog. You push it real hard, it turns to a digital button. I guess sort of like the even though you don't feel a click. Sort of like the GameCube controller. Feels good. I'd use it more, except for it's got these plastic direction indicators that stick up and are sharp and they hurt your thumb. These are Dreamcast controllers based on the Saturn 3D pad. You got the analog triggers in the back. Very plasticky button there. Very smooth D-pad, but something about it just doesn't feel great. Buttons are plasticky. Played through Shenmue with these and tons of other games, and I didn't. Aside from having to hold the trigger to run, they were still really comfortable, even though the plastics are kind of clacky and a little bit weird. Dreamcast keyboard, second edition. I used to own the first edition. I had the box for that, but it was in the shed and got all stinky. It's a Quantum fighter pad for the Dreamcast. You can reprogram Z and C to anything except for L and R. It's got turbo for everything. This analog stick has something about it that lets you run faster. In the original Sonic Adventure, people used to get high scores on the old web leaderboards that was built into the game and let you access the web leaderboards through the game way back in 99. This controller's from 99. You could also do it, and I've tested this out, you can do a jump and hit the analog button and it like makes you jump farther in the game. So it's cool. It's really cool for the first Sonic Adventure. It's sort of like a cheat controller. But it's also awesome that you can reprogram any of these, but C and C you can reprogram, and that's really cool for fighting games and other things. Dreamcast fishing controller, just a grip on the bottom. The reel's good. Sega bass fishing, fantastic. Sega marine fishing, fantastic. Sega bass fishing too, a bit harder and more complicated. It plays pretty similar, just not as easy to pick up. but Sega just was fantastic at making arcade games, and this is a really fun controller. It's got motion control. Use the cast off. I haven't tried it with virtual tennis, even though I have a game, but I have tried it with Soul Calibur, and yes, if you slice down, you do the vertical slice. If you go sideways, you do the horizontal slice. It's fantastic. Early secret motion control that was built into the game by the kind people that made it. It's another Microsoft Sidewinder, the Dual Strike. The clicky D-pad. It's real nicely feeling back triggers. I got shift button here, which works as a normal button if you don't have the programming. If you don't have the old outdated remapping software, you use X-Padder to just make that a shift button or just a regular button. Those buttons there, which are a little weird but still pretty cool. These buttons feel fine. The feature of it, can't really do it with one hand, but moves on this ball. Problem is you can't move both ways at once. It's basically move left, move this direction or that direction. You can sort of do it both ways at once, but there's a point where it just doesn't work, and it's really hard. Some people said they've been able to get good aiming with that, first-person shooters and such. I wasn't able to get much good doing with it, but something worth trying and something worth revisiting. This is the Microsoft Sidewinder wheel, obviously USB. It's got a grip that lets you hook it up to a table, which is fantastic. Makes it so it's totally sturdy. You can, because of this extra area at the bottom, you can actually fit it in your lap, sort of hold it with your knees and not have much problem, but it feels fantastic on a table. It's got 6 buttons on the front, little clicker buttons on the back. Very, very, very good. Best wheel I have, I'd say. And I probably only have 1 or 2 more, but still. And these are pedals, only pedals I have for any racing controller. Hooks up to these. These were also used for later Sidewinder wheels. They used the same pedals when they started designing new wheels. These last two, I'm not totally sure if they were released in the 20th century, as in 1999 or before, but some people would argue that the 20th century ended in 2000. I actually have the box for this. It's the color jolt pad. It's got a built-in rumble. It's got just one slot. It's for Dreamcast. One slot for VMU. I hadn't tried putting a rumble pack in the front. See what happens. But got a very unique 6-button layout. Almost vertical. Very unique. These buttons act as L&R up here, which is good. Buttons feel really good. Got the Dreamcast South Sticks, very good feeling controller. It has a 4 and 6 button mode. You can turn the rumble on and off. Some games it won't work in some modes, as far as emulating L&R, and this fixes it. It's the only one I know that has a switch for that. But there are no real Dreamcast games in a true 6-button mode. It's either programmable like that one, or it emulates L&R like that, or like this final one, it also emulates L&R. It's got a good feeling stick. That's the Nyko Dream Master. This Dream is greater than Master. It's got turbo, which I love. I wish this had turbo. Very unique layout as far as the ZNC. Feels good. You can use them. You can get them like this to do L&R, gas and brake. If you don't feel like doing the trigger, your fingers are wore out, and you don't really care about going a little slower on the gas. Problem with this one is the buttons are sort of stiff. Don't feel as good as any of the other Dreamcast controllers, but because of the turbo, because of the good layout of the ZNC, sometimes you don't want to use these harsh triggers. Makes it unique and worth it. This one doesn't have turbo, and the buttons aren't placed in a good spot, and this one has the Saturn style. But that's my controllers from the 20th century. It took me a long time to set all this out, like so I'm not going to move to the 21st century. This comprises of about 55 controllers. I'm not counting it right now. That's just based on my quick evaluation. Total, I have 104 controllers. Only 5 of them are duplicates. You know, double Gemsticks, double 7800s, double Genesis, double PS1. Everything else is unique, and that's not counting Wii shells. Like I have the babysitting model controller. That's just counting controllers that you can either plug straight into the console and it registers buttons, or you can hook an adapter up to the PC. So there you go. Phone's ringing just at the end. Maybe see it for 21st century, don't know. It's Mr. Pomerica's 21st century game controller collection. This is part 2. Part 1 was 20th century game controller collection. This is mostly laid out in chronological order. I will discuss them in chronological order, but I couldn't physically put them exactly that way. This first one came out in 2000. This is the Interact GoPad FX. It's a USB controller. It's made for early laptops. It has a detachable cord. It's basically like a phone headphone jack. Got the Saturn button layout. It's got these little nubs on the buttons in the middle, which are way too sharp and way too big. Pretty annoying. That's the worst part about it. Everything else is great. It's very soft. This is actually like the Saturn 3D pad, but different feeling. Analog circle nub. The only one like it that I know of. I don't know how it's made internally. This originally came with the carrying case and with headphones. Played Wave Race with this. It's good. Comfortable. One of the pads that I revisit from time to time. This is Cytec P150. Got triggers on the back. Very comfortable. This is my first PC controller that USB. At this point, they had already stopped putting a little knob on it to where you could tell which side was top and bottom easily. There's a little texture that lets you do it. This is detachable. It has a little storage space under here. You can put it in. It has a switch to move it in and out. I had a PC controller before this, the ProPad 6, but I did not have a game port. Somebody gave it to me, but I didn't have a game port on my computer, and I've never had one, so I wasn't able to use it. It's a Gamester Pro V Racer from 2000 PS2, or yeah, works with PS1. It's got the 1-2 buttons. These are actually analog, even though they don't travel pretty much any different than the B and the A, or the triangle, circle. It says B and A right there. These are analog. You push them real hard. It registers just basically based on the Netcon setup. Really strange D-pad, just for navigating menus. This one feels really good. It's basically like a half wheel. Like a half wheel that you goes into the sheath, turns from here at the bottom, and you race. Very good for paddle centering, recentering. Man, not even as much recentering, but paddle games on MAME and things like that. The Omega 2 by Nyko. It's got turbo. It's a PS2 controller. Buttons are pretty clacky, so I don't like that, but I do like having turbo, which with all the PS2 adapters for GameCube and for Xbox, so it's nice to have a turbo controller for that. There's a black GameCube controller. Of course, it's got the analogs that are analog, and then have an optional button at the bottom that clicks when it goes in. This is the GameCube version of the Racer. There's actually more than one PlayStation version, but this is the one I chose. It's got an analog stick. Buttons are a different shape than normal GameCube. This is the Z button down here. It's got analog triggers on the side, and it goes into the, not sure if it's, yeah, you steer it in and out of this own sheath. Let's see if I'll be able to get a video of it. Steer it in and out of the sheath. Sort of compresses. Here's the Xbox version. Original Xbox. Let's see. Steers like that. So it was the first one I got. Couldn't get an adapter to work for it on the PC, and I bought the GameCube one. That one didn't work for the PC, so I finally just bought the PS2 version. That's why I have all three. They are all differently designed. The GameCube version has dual analog sticks. They all have different types of D-pads, all different button layouts. Really good, really cool the way they did it for different systems. Xbox one looks the coolest because it's in the shape of the X. I got the Xbox controller S. I have a modded Xbox. I got a lot of emulators for it. So I really love the white black buttons down here. Have that for like a load state, save state. Back and start. You can use that as a reset in the emulators. I like the feel of it. The buttons feel fantastic. They look fantastic. I think they feel better than the 360 and the Xbox One as far as buttons go. I think they look better too. I think the Xbox One controller sort of looks like the original Xbox knockoff third-party controller. Used to have the original Xbox controller, but right analog broke on it. Eventually I just lost it, or a friend lost it, or something like that. I like the size of the what they call the Duke, the original Xbox controller. But it's like for playing Soul Calibur 2 because the buttons were slanted. This is the Yamaha MS1 Motorsports controller. It's a PlayStation 2. Actually came with an adapter for Xbox and GameCube. I believe this one is analog. This one is just a button. You can turn this throttle analog, and then you have the R buttons. You have the face buttons down here. Very cool start button. You got a select button. Forget what happens when that changes, but it has a feature to turn headlights on. It has headlights in the front. So when it's plugged up, you can turn on the headlights. That's fine. And of course, you steer like a motorbike. It's very cool. And there's a D-pad. Pretty sure even these are like the Nikon. Well, this point's not like the Nikon, it's just like the PS2. Those are analog as well. It's fun, played different games with it. It's the Gamester FPS Master. Came out for PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. Very uniquely designed. It has even level joysticks, almost Wii U like. So start select. You got your two buttons here next to it, so you can play your old school games that way with your jump and action. It's got a D-pad that kind of sucks, but doesn't hurt your fingers. Lots of different programming features. Forget exactly what. Here's the main things about it. It's got actual gun triggers as triggers as you have for a trigger. Xbox one would be analog. This PS2 one is not analog, but it feels really cool. It feels like you're dual wielding pistols, and it's got these very smartly positioned buttons back here for your fingers, so you can access all sorts of buttons. Very unique. Forget the name of the game that I played it. It's a first-person shooter on Windows. It's real cute. So you got smiles and colorful. I can't remember. It's a Dual Force 2 Pro Microcon. At this point, these analog sticks are sticky. If they weren't, I would probably use it more because it's got a macro feature. You can reprogram any of the buttons, and it's got a really cool looking cord. the DK Bongo controller. Hey! Cat's getting wild over here. Oh, they're smelling these game controllers, making them mad. DK Bongos. Each side, they have lines to delineate it. Is a separate button that maps to your face buttons on the GameCube controller. Start button. Interestingly, it's got a microphone. If you blow into this, it registers as movement on the C stick on the GameCube controller if you blow into the microphone. I've tested it out for playing music on the PC. I don't know if I've actually made any songs, but very soft, very smooth, very cool that it has two there. I did not think it had two buttons when I bought it. Next one, it has to be over here because it's so big. It's a Gamester Race Pack. It's basically a kart controller. Comes PS2 hookup and Xbox hookup. It's funny because I use it after I play Mario Kart. It has a latch. It folds up, and it has a storage case for the wheel. All of that's built in. You don't have to put it in a separate case. You sit there and you got your wheel with all sorts of excellent button layout. Your normal, and you can change the sensitivity on the fly. Tells you which map's which as far as if you're using Stars Select. It's got buttons on the back, or two each. Forget exactly what maps to what. And on the back, you can adjust the position of the wheel. It's got a knob to turn. You can turn it closer or higher. All of it's adjustable. How far the wheel is from your body, how far the pedals are from the wheel. It's all adjustable. It's got the pedals here. Feels really cool. It's like you're really in a, minus the no rumble. Feels like you're really in a go-kart. Got it from Goodwill, really cheap. We got the Cytec P990, which currently is one of my favorite controllers ever, simply because it has 4 trigger buttons, 4 shoulders, and 6 face buttons. I own 100 plus controllers, and this is the only one like that. Problem with this and a lot of PC controllers that add have 6 face buttons, they replace the menu buttons. But this FPS button, as far as current system, putting it on a current PC, acts as a button as well. So it has one more button than most game controllers. They all top out with the Start Select. That would be these two in this case. But it's got that FPS button that gives you one extra button. I do have a controller with more buttons than that, but not as far as face button go, and it's not comfortable. Wingman Attack 2 flight stick. It's analog. I beat Space Harrier 2 on the Genesis with this. I'm going to acquire analog. It's comfortable in the seat. It's got a hand rest. It's got a throttle. It's the only controller I have with a throttle at this time. You can, for emulation, you can use that for Circus, Acrobat TV, paddle controller, Arkanoid type games. It's got a good feeling clicky buttons. A nice trigger. Extra buttons down there to use with the other hand. So you can do it one-handed, or you can add those extra buttons for extra features. That's a third-party GameCube controller. I bought this one before I could afford a regular GameCube controller. It kind of sucks. The button is really sticky. I don't know if it's always been that way, but don't really plan on playing that one anymore. This is a Dream Gear Mini Wheel PlayStation. turn. Got all your buttons. Played some Burnout for the GameCube on this. This thing right here tells you how much essentially gas you're given for your triggers are analog. I believe they simulate right analog. I'm not sure. They weren't analog when I hooked it for PC, but when I used on a GameCube adapter, it did register as analog. It's the Xbox Pelican Blade C type. Oddly named controller. I got it for original Xbox because it had white and black as shoulder buttons, which is convenient. At the time, I didn't have a lot of PC controllers, unlike now, obviously. And I found out that that original Xbox controllers were essentially USB wired. They just have one extra wire in them, which you don't have to use. So I cut this sucker open and cut open an extra USB cable I had and taped it all back together. And this is just for PC right now because of that. This is the 4-in-1 wireless gamepad by Z-Joy. It doesn't have any logo on it. It's wireless. The analog click is very stiff, but it's wireless. That's what I got it for original Xbox. The adapter also has PlayStation 2, GameCube. Has USB. USB is the only one I couldn't get to work. But that's the wireless receiver. It has turbo. That's one of the other things I really wanted about it. I basically can't find out anything about this online anymore. It takes 3 AAAs. See plenty of wired ones for sale online nowadays, but not recently. Here's your on-off to connect. Had trouble connecting it a lot, but it's cool to have a wireless remote for your original Xbox. We'll move on to the Xbox 360. I actually own a 360. Not enough money, even after all these years. I bought this one off of eBay. It's shipped from China. I don't know if this is normal for Xbox controllers. It had like the official Microsoft packaging, but this, hear that? It almost came like that. The sticks were just really grindy and rough. I like how the buttons, plastic sort of raises up to the buttons. That's nice. I think the actual physical layout of the controller is one of the best ever. I like having the analog stick in the right corner. I like how these go. I like the shorter trigger as opposed to Dreamcast original Xbox. They doesn't hurt your finger near as much. Position and start button's a great place. Back button could be better. But I don't ever play with this because it's like that. The reason I originally bought it was for PC games that had XI input. They would just automatically set up for the controller. It worked okay for a little while, but in that sense I don't like it at all. I do like the bumpers, sort of reminiscent of the Saturn controller, but with a little more spring back, which is bad. It hurts your fingers. This jumble is the body pad. I thought this was like a gyroscopic accelerometer motion type controller, but it's not. It's a controller. Put this in your hand. It's got D-pad, customizable button. It's got your 4 L buttons, customizable button. Strap those in your hand, and these wires, which are soft wires. It's awesome. They're soft, but they carry electrical signals. You strap them on. Strap these parts here to your arms, as it shows, and your leg behind your knee, as it shows. Just show you the diagram for it. You can customize which button does what, and basically it's sort of like snapping a gi, I guess. When you punch, you bend your arm enough to click it. You go, and you kick your leg back. You bend your knee back enough to click it for the leg. I played with it for a while. It's really hard to hook up. Even though mine was completely fresh in box, it's real gooey and weird feeling right from the start. The plastic, maybe the storage or something was messed up. And it was a whole lot of fun. Just a lot of detangly setup for it. here's the box right here, the body pad. I don't actually have a PS2, so I can't. It says that some games were made for it. That didn't really make sense, since it's basically just transmitting buttons. I think that's what it says. Unless they're just trying to say compatible for compatible, so it's compatible with everything. But it's fun. It's pretty much the only controller that I have that lets you register kicks, because it's, instead of having unreliable motion technology, it registers to your actual, you hitting a button on your body. So it's sort of, you know, body pad, which works out great. There's a Guitar Hero controller here. It's the Guitar Hero 2 Gibson SG. Not the old clicky one. These buttons always want my finger out. I actually use this to play Super Mario World. You go left, right, duck. You got your run and jump up here. Wiimote, which I think is great. One of the best controllers ever made. Perfect for old school and a lot of new fresh things. Nunchuck. It's not very comfortable to me. In games particularly like Knights, Journey into Dreams, it feels like your thumb slips off a lot. I got a wireless nunchuck that I prefer the button feel of. This is a classic controller knockoff. I got it from eBay. Not officially made by Nintendo. I don't believe Nintendo ever made a black version. Unlike the N64, Genesis, Super Nintendo, Retrobit or whatever, whoever makes them, knockoff controllers that they make nowadays that suck. This is awesome. It feels pretty much like the real thing, if not exactly like the real thing, and it looks cool. So I'm not having the real thing. Got your Mad Catz arcade Gemstik. This is one of the most unique controllers of the 21st century, believe it or not, because it has the old-fashioned Atari third-party joystick. It's actually attached to an analog stick. I wonder if you unscrew it, if it was just a stick under there, a top like that. It's got the button on top. It maps to A, I believe. Move around. Very fun. Works great for, so good for emulation. I don't have a 360 like I said, but it's USB. It hooks up to PC. So many awesome old games you can just play with the one button and the cool stick, and it's analog, so it's just smoother. It doesn't resist you like the old school one. You can even hold it like this, hold it up like that, and use the buttons. And it's got variable turbo that you can change. The triggers are very nice, and this is the feature I got it for. It's the only, aside from the horizontal controller, released only in Japan, the only controller in the 21st century with a spinner, officially released by anybody. Basically maps to the D-pad. Turning it is like tap tap tap. You turn it faster, tap 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 tap. This is the right analog stick. Sometimes it can be a little jittery, which is a funny thing. It's sort of authentic for a pedal controller, but it spins endlessly. I like to use these in conjunction. I map this to the left, right, and then this for like slow, precise movements, and then this for get to the other side of the screen quick for Arkanoid type, polling type games. Use these together. It works fantastic. Alright, this is the. Sorry, I'm having to look up the names on the screen just to get the names right. This is the Dance Drum by Pelican for PlayStation 2. It usually comes with plastic drumsticks. I don't have those, but basically you can push them down. Unlike the Rock Band Guitar Hero drums, you can't use your palms on them, really. You can punch them, but you can't use your palms. So you can just have this giant, either use the drums, or you can use the drumsticks, or you can use with your hands, or you can just do normal hand presses. What I do is I rotate it diagonal, play Qbert with it. Fantastic Qbert controller. It's a fun way to play games sort of with your palms differently, if your thumbs or fingers getting sore or whatever. I did the Guitar Hero 2 Explorer for 360. I basically got this so I could hook it up to a program on my PC that lets you do strumming and custom chords for real guitar chords. Make songs with it. That way you can actually get the rhythm down. It's really hard to do that with the keyboard. You can do the strum rhythm, and it registers the strum up and down, which is great. I made some songs with it. It's great. I forget the name of the program. I think it's a real guitar or something like that. It's a Thrustmaster 3-in-1 dual trigger. The analog sticks, they feel fine, they're cool, they're transparent. Click is a bit harsh, I never like that. The buttons, way too plasticky and just cracky. I think that sucks. D-pad's okay, not great. The unique thing about this controller, the only 6-shoulder button controller, legitimately. I believe there's a 360 one or something that is illegitimate in the sense that it just remaps to something, but your analog trigger, this is for PS3 or PS2 or PC, which PC uses all of them. These shoulder buttons are fantastic, feel great. That trigger is fantastic. I'd really like this if these buttons were okay, but I mean, you could play Street Fighter with just shoulder buttons if you want, because it's got the 3 on each side. I want to think of more things I could do with it, just because of the amount of shoulder buttons. It's hard to think of because these buttons right here are so clacky. It actually has, because those are legit buttons, has more buttons than that right there, making it be a tie, a sort of tie for the most buttons I have on the controller. I have the active light mat for the Wii. It hooks up to the GameCube port made by Namco. The original NES Power Pad had like 2 rows where people could stand side by side and race against each other, and then you flip it over and it had pretty much a design that looks exactly like this, as far as I remember. It's essentially 2 players. You have one person stand there, you go back there, and you go here and there. Of course, the carriage is jumping on the game, so I've got the games for it. Fun minecart game I play with my wife. You can use it to emulate a Power Pad. It's kind of hard to set up on X-Padder because it maps to a GameCube controller, and you can't really set up analogs as separate buttons as far as how the design goes. It's fun, it's cool, and it was cheap. Look at the Roklan drums, those are for the 360. Got the drumsticks for those. I also have the stand, but I didn't feel like hooking it all up. I have the Wii balance board, which I've had a lot of fun times with, either my own or with other people's. And I have the common wireless nunchuck, which I prefer to the normal nunchuck. Because look at this, it's got a finger rest built in, which is a great idea. The buttons are full size, feels great, and it's wireless. Use this button to turn it off. The other button that's blinking is to sync it up with the Wiimote. If you got a modded where you don't want to have this hook, you don't want to have it hooked up to anything until you're in the game or screw around, because it's a normal controller. And that's all for this portion. I've got more, but I couldn't fit them all in one picture or even in the room. As you see, there's the kitchen. So there it is. Yep. Alright, this is Mr. America's second part, 21st century game controller collection. Had a 20th century collection here for this. Lighting's not going to be as good, but first one here is the Konami Dance Dance Revolution controller. Officially on the box, there's no space between Dance Dance Revolution. It's come out in 2008. It's got the GameCube hookup, which means it's very easy to hook up to PC if you get an adapter. I got the Guitar Hero microphone. It's a USB microphone. Works great as a cheap USB microphone. This is the Ferrari F430 Challenge. It's in a fancy limited edition box. Got a sticker, limited edition. Let me change the focus on this. Fancy limited edition sticker. It's like the other Thrustmaster I have. Buttons really clacky, but worse than that, they're rounded off. They bulge out. They're sort of half domes that just dig into your finger, especially with the size and the spacing. They just dig into your thumb when you're pushing them. It's really hard to hit these top LR buttons at the same time. L1 and L2. This is a PS3 and PC controller. These analog triggers, it's really uncomfortable to hit them together. Are fantastic. They feel great. They're sort of rounded up to give you a little bit of a finger rest. Analog sticks are wonderful. They feel completely smooth with more resistance than most of what you're used to. Kind of cool that they're just metal sticks there. This controller has 2 buttons on the back, which I wish all controllers did, because it works fantastically. It's so excellent for particular emulation. It's whenever you want extra buttons. It's got more buttons than any other conventional controller that I have. It has the most. But in addition to that, it has more axes, aside from a 6-axis controller, than any other I have. It has a steering wheel around the D-pad. The D-pad's real small and rocky, and I haven't used it enough to really tell you about it, but this is a cool little thumb steering wheel that you can use to steer, and it works great. It works for old paddle type games as well. It's analog. It has a mode switch to let you switch how it's using that analog. Silly Motion Plus attachment. A lot of people say that the Wii controller should have just came out like this to begin with, with the good 1-1 tracking, but Nintendo's official story on it is, well, it costs too much. If you remember, Wii launched at a really good price. I believe that's one of the reasons for its success, because it was a well-priced system. So when the technology became affordable, Motion Plus came out. This is the jog for the Wii. One also exists for PlayStation 2. It's considerably rare. You hook this up to your nunchuck, and you push a direction on the nunchuck, and when you walk or jog, you will move in the direction it's pushed. It also has a switch here to turn that off, to where you can just use the nunchuck by itself if you're in a tough spot or it's menu selection or something like that. So essentially you can stand there and run through any given game that uses a nunchuck. And it also counts your steps with a pedometer here. And it counts calories as well. It's really cool. You push on a nunchuck and you jog, run up and down, and it works great. I played through a Galaxy on Super Mario Galaxy, and it was tons of fun. Played through a little bit of another game. It was great. I plan on using it again. This is Classic Controller Pro. Personally, I think the analog stick and the slanted grip is just uncomfortable. I feel like it's for too big of a hand, I guess, and my hands never have problems with any size of a controller. It just feels like it's too far away or something, and I don't like that. These buttons back here feel really good. I like the design of how it goes farther out and farther apart. This is a split fish dual SFX Evolution wireless. What a name. That's for PS3 and PC. Came out in 2009. Basically, two nunchuck style controllers. Has 3 buttons that would appear to be functional on both, but the F is just an internal function button, and it's on both sides. I guess if you're just using one, you might want to do it. Seems pointless, and I didn't like that it was basically pointless. Batteries seem to run out on these pretty quick. Makes loud beeping noises when you're changing settings. Got your buttons here. The plastic comes up. To where you can feel the X, and that kind of sucks. Got your decent joysticks. This feels fine. I played a few one-button games. Still circle here. When it's turned on, you can do 6-axis on this by tilting, motion control. And this cool little thing, this wheel-looking thing, is a D-pad. Left, right, up, down. Very unique D-pad. Very cool. One of the better reasons to get this. And it is nice that they give you the visual indication of which direction you're tilting in the 6-axis. You got your Rock Band Fender Strat. I couldn't get this to work on a PC program that lets you strum. The strum bar wouldn't work. That's the main reason I wanted it. It's got the 2 sets of buttons, and much more comfortable. No click. Clicking is very distracting when you're using it on a real music program for chords and such. This I don't consider a normal part of the collection, but it's worth putting in there because it's nunchuck shaped. It's the forget the full name of it, but it's basically a dolphin trackball. It's got buttons on the bottom. It's a trackball on top. Trackball is a little scratchy, I guess. Not really scratchy, but not totally smooth. But it's cool. It's a one-handed trackball that has Wiimote nunchuck style buttons. Got a little finger rest. Used it for a few things. It's cool. I got a different trackball that I prefer. I have the PS Move controller. This button right here is soft. PlayStation button. Got a blink in there. D-pad is fine. These buttons, the X and the O, very, very uncomfortable. Hurts your thumb practically every time you touch them. Very uncomfortable. This stick is great. Got analog trigger, regular trigger. Played through Crystal Defenders with this. Emulating the Wii. It's fun. Good for a one-hand controller. Good enough for even doing some platforming games of old. So Wii Remote Plus. I always preferred it being called Wiimote. Or it's got Motion Plus inside. I'm glad they made it. You can't really tell the difference of the weight. Got your sync button right there, and the texture is not quite the same on the back. DJ Hero for the Wii. Hope to be able to hook that up to this PC sometime. It's really complicated. Haven't tried to hook this up to the PC, but have fun playing the game. The U-Draw game tablet for the Wii. Very well done. Even has some games that you can use the buttons on the stylus. And has some games, not just drawing. Some mini games. And interestingly, the 3 most recent controllers, first one from 2011, are some of my favorite controllers of all time. And at least 2 of these are the ones I played with the most. And this right here is the Versus Fighting Pad for the Xbox 360, and you also use it on PC. Really wish the Xbox 360 would let you use the home button as an independent button. Got shoulders. It's got start and back on top, which is very cool. Real clicky arcade style buttons. Feels a little bit off there, and the grip is a little strange off. The reason I love it, micro switch, which is what arcades use. clicky micro switch D-pad style thing here. It's soft rubber, moves fantastic, feels great. It's like smoother than a D-pad, but faster than an analog stick. Here the Neo Geo CD controllers are like this. The Neo Geo Pocket controller was like this. From what I heard, they didn't feel as good as this. Shoulder buttons are great. This is, in my opinion, better than any D-pad, any analog stick, any motion, and any touch, any joystick for shooters. It's just so precise and quick, and you sort of hear when you're going a certain direction. I've beaten the entire Darius series of arcade games with this, and those can get pretty hard. It's a lot of fun. It's fantastic. I'd say it's in my top 2 or 3 controllers ever, just because of that. Even though I don't like it for normal use, it's such a good micro switch D-pad that it's a specialized controller that's just totally fantastic. Of course, it's originally made for fighting games, which I don't play as much. So. Best shooter controller. And this here is my go-to controller of all go-to controllers. My favorite controller ever. Just because I have emulation and use RetroArch and have lots of emulator functions. Rewind, slow down, change state, pause, change shader. D-pad's great. These buttons are great. This L button not working is easy when you push it down. It's wireless. I like the PlayStation 3 pedal type analog as opposed to the trigger, which makes you exert your finger and hurt your finger more. These sticks are great. It's got the extra home button. It counts as an extra button. Start and select is placed in a horrible place, but you don't really need it because you can just use the keyboard for all sorts of things. I used the 0 as a select, P for emulator pause, enter for regular start button, and then you can use the entire keyboard. H for reset. You can get the tab. It doesn't have function or control. That's because it's a PlayStation 3 controller, but grips are great. It's my favorite controller to use. I mean, one, because it's wireless. It's got 6-axis built in too. It's called free axis on this. The LED buttons are way too bright, so I put the sticker over it. You can actually reach start and select with your index finger on either side, but you don't really need to use it. I use it for profile switching on X-Better. And this is the final controller, which is I own 105 controllers. This is the 100th controller that I bought. This is about a strange company called CTYRZC8. Made some time in the past 5 years. Mini wireless Bluetooth gamepad. It has different modes that you can use for Android, iOS, or PC. Haven't been able to get it to work on any Android device yet, but I have a couple old ones and one that doesn't have Bluetooth anyway. It emulates the mouse. You hold select and press that button, and it does gamepad mode. And I didn't discuss this about the 7800, but if you press both 7800 buttons on the Atari 7800, it registers as a third separate button. It doesn't register as A plus B. Instead, it's like a C. It's not 1 plus 2, it's a 3. And this has similar, if you look there, it says R1, L1. If you push these 2 buttons together, it registers as a separate button. These 2 register as a separate button, which is cool. It gives you a little bit of extra feature if you want it. It's got 2 buttons there. It's got the 3DS style circle pad, which I don't have anything like that. I don't own a 3DS. It's very small. You can, of course, with X-Pad, you can map it either way. Fantastic one-handed controller, especially if you're going to just do auto fire on a shooter or something and you just want to sit with one hand, your hands are tied or whatever. You can just go like that. It's great for navigating with a mouse. Works great on a mouse. Even though it shows up as analog for the D-pad, it doesn't register anything about it, but when you're using the mouse it does. That's a bit strange. Couldn't get it. It's hard to get it to connect a lot of times, but that's it. That's the last one. That's all of my game controllers, all 105. And it's so dark, and I'm glad I don't have more for just tonight.